to make it look more natural. All right, so recording in 3, 2, 1. You're supposed to start us off.
No, because you start off with a, hey, I'm Lashawnda.
I said I'm letting you start off this time.
Oh.
It's
Let's try it again.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to our channel. Of course, I'm the Mike.
And I'm Shawnda.
Today, we're going to be discussing over a couple topics. The first topic of discussion is what's new with us.
It's so funny because when we start these, every time I say Michael, I'm going to let you start us off this time. I'll count down and I'll say 3, 2, 1. And he'll just be like, oh, my baby, you supposed to start us off. And he'd be like, oh, so
It's
aren't you going to do the intro? I'm like, no, you supposed to do the intro.
Yeah, it's kind of like against the grain for me because I'm not used to doing the intro. Anyhow.
So what's new, Michael?
So I would like to start off by saying protecting our family. That's the new topic that we have to discuss today. And one of the things that we did was we installed a Ring camera, which is freaking awesome.
I love our Ring camera.
That thing is clear, man. Yeah, that thing is so cool.
Oh my gosh. Do you guys have a Ring camera for your house?
Yeah, and the cool thing is it tells you like if somebody's got a package and all that good stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we had some situations going on, and I've always wanted a Ring camera, like
Right.
even at the other house, and we just kind of procrastinated on getting one.
Right.
And one of the things that I don't like, and I think this just happens, if you live in like a physical house part, you'll get unsolicited people like coming to your door trying to sell you stuff,
Right.
or just knocking on your door for random reasons. And
Right.
I don't like when Michael is at work and then like there's a random man at my door. And most of the time I know they're like just trying to sell me something. Like I don't know
but
what it
today's
is.
economy, you just don't know.
You just don't know. And then like I seen on TikTok where people were like, you have to be careful with like just not acknowledging that you're there, that you're home, because they may knock to see if anyone's home. And if they're not, they might try to break in. So
Right.
I'm scary. So I'm always like on edge anytime someone comes to our door. So now with the Ring camera, I'm able to either talk through the door or Michael's able to talk through the door even if he's not here, and it makes you feel
Right.
more safe at your home because you have a camera outside
Of safety.
Yep. And then a couple other things that we're doing in reference to protecting our family is I'm telling you, we are what's the word I'm looking for? We're buckling down on cameras. If that's the best term to use for that.
We sure are, and we're gonna make sure that we get it right.
No, but for real though, like Michael recently got a camera for his car. So you know
Yeah.
how like we're TikTok watchers, so we see stuff all the time, like just random craziness is going on. And one thing that we see is like some people will literally hit you and then try to
slam
pretend
on-
like you did it.
Slam on brakes. I saw a video where this guy was walking across the street. The guy stopped in the car now,
Yeah.
mind you. This dude's walking across the street, and then he walks up to the hood of the vehicle, pretty much kind of jumps on the vehicle a little bit, and then falls
Right.
down like he just got hit by the guy.
Right.
Luckily, the guy had a car camera to record the whole situation, but I'm just like, it was one of those things that you don't think about
Until it happens.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, that was dope that the guy actually had proof, because what would have happened to him if he didn't,
And then there was another scenario where this dude had like a really expensive car. I don't remember if it was like a Lamborghini or it was some type of like sports, really expensive vehicle. And they actually was at a red light and backed up into the car that was behind them and tried to act like that car hit their car. And what they didn't know is that the person behind them had a dash cam.
Yep.
And so whenever they played the footage back, it was like, nah, boo, like you parked and bagged up into this car.
Right.
Like, why do people do stuff like that?
I don't know. And you got to keep in mind that there's crazy people out here right now, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. One of the things, too, and I'm a very big advocate, I don't really care if this pisses anybody off, but I'm a really big advocate of having a weapon. So one of the things I
Yeah.
did was make sure we have a shotgun to
Yeah.
at least protect the house. Also, we are putting the little ones in, what is it, jujitsu or something like that? That's what they want to do, or
Krav Maga.
Krav Maga. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but let's
some
circle back to the
self-defense.
gun, okay?
Yeah.
Because I want to stick on that for a little bit.
Yeah.
So yes, he has a shotgun. Now he's had this for a while at this point. It's just a collective amount of different things that we've been putting in place over the last year
Right.
that made us be like, you know what, we need to bring this up because we just recently got like the cameras and stuff. But the shotgun, we watched a movie. What was it called?
Was The Strangers.
The Strangers.
I'll never forget that. Yeah.
We watched the movie. This is what made him get the shotgun. Now, granted, he had already wanted the shotgun or some type
Right.
of protection in the house, but after we watched this movie, I feel like you went and got it like the next day
Yeah.
or
man.
something.
Yeah,
I
because
don't.
it was a new fear unlocked.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the movie The Strangers.
Right.
But it was this couple. I can't remember if they were at a cabin or they were on vacation or were they at their house.
I don't remember. I know it was a house. I just don't know if it was like a vacation house or what. I can't remember.
I feel like I can't remember either, but that part don't even matter. They were at some type of house.
Right.
And it was just a regular day. You know, they came home and these intruders started like messing with them. I'm trying to stop cursing.
Yeah.
They started messing with them
Yeah.
and like beating on the door and then going to the back and knocking on the glass and like just doing stuff to like terrorize them. And then eventually they got in the house and they had no protection, I want to say.
Right.
And
right,
so these people just came in and eventually they did take them out. Like they took them out. And by the end
Right.
of that movie, it's been a while since I watched it, so I can't remember everything.
Stressful. It's a stressful movie.
Yeah, but by the end of it, we was like, dang, we ain't got nothing
Right.
that if something like that happened to us, like what would we do? And like the next day he went and got a shotgun.
Yep.
Because he was like, if they had a shotgun, this wouldn't have been no problem.
Right,
And he was technically right.
Come
Like
through that door, you drop them.
yeah, so that's why he got it. The thing that bothers me with having like a gun in the house, and I don't know if you're in a different country, y'all might not even have this, because I think this is an American thing. And then Michael's from Georgia, so like this is normal behavior for him on top of that, like country boy stuff. I feel very uneasy around weapons in general. Like, I feel very uneasy. Even when he first got it, I was scared to touch the dang on shotgun. Like, he was trying to show me how to load it and how to do this and how to do that. Yeah. And so one thing that he wants to do for me specifically is take me to a shooting range, because I've never really held a weapon. Definitely anytime I'm around a weapon, it gives me anxiety just because of the fact that I know what it can do, especially a shotgun. But for some reason, it's nothing to him, and then it's nothing to Colin either, because he's like a gun guy. Colin is my youngest son. He knows everything about guns. He knows the name of them, what they do, the different types of they be having like this gun type conversations, and I'm like, what are y'all talking about? He's like, oh, it's just a la 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 la. And I'm like, how do you know this? You're like 11.
It's funny too, because believe it or not, I actually didn't touch my first gun until I was about 25.
What? Really?
Yeah. What wound up happening was I went into the police academy, and before I ever did anything like that, I've never held a gun because my mom was the same way.
Yeah, I do not feel comfortable.
So when I went through, law enforcement, then I got very familiar with handguns and shotguns and all that good stuff. And I definitely believe in having protection. I don't, that's just my firm belief.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I get it. You know what I'm saying? And like, I can't say that it's not a need, especially with everything that's going on in America. It's a lot. It's a lot that's going on, and you have to do what you have to do to protect your own. You really do. I mean, it's not something that you want to think about. That has to happen, but it's better to be prepared than to not be prepared.
Amen.
You know?
Amen.
And then, like you said, putting the kids in self-defense classes. So I'm Mama Bear, and it's like the kids are going back to public school this year. So they've been homeschooled for 4 years now. This is the 4th year that we've homeschooled, and they're going back to school this year. And it ain't even just like they're going back to elementary school. They're going to middle and high school. And so it's like, I want my kids to know how to defend themselves in any type of situation. This is just a mama bear type of, this is what I want for my kids. And then Colin, he also loves the idea of different types of fighting techniques. Like you had mentioned, I don't know how to say it.
Jiu-jitsu,
that
Krav Maga.
Right.
All that good stuff.
So he's very interested in learning that kind of stuff. Amari, my oldest, he don't care. But I care for him. So I'm like, nah, I'm going to make sure you're equipped just in case, because you never know. To defend yourself, because you just never know.
That's the key. Luckily you have extremely polite children too, so
but I want them to be polite, and then if something happened, they're like, all right, I told you to leave me alone. I had to put you in the headlock. Be like, what did we learn?
right. We don't promote bullying, however we do promote defending yourself, and taking up for those that can't defend themselves as well too is very important.
Yeah. So that's what's new with us. Just, protecting our family. Yeah. So moving on, the hot topic right now is inflation and shrinkflation. What is happening right now with our stuff? Everything has doubled, if not tripled in price, and everybody is feeling the pinch. No matter what amount of money you're making right now, you are feeling the pinch. And it's like, why does McDonald's cost more than going to a sit-down restaurant to eat at this point?
Yeah, I feel like, everything's being raised, right? The price of food, gas, the cost of living, your insurances, but I don't see a pay increase.
At all.
It's getting very frustrating, because when you see the amount of money that comes out of your check for taxes and things of that nature, and yet, you have inflation going on. And then I heard last that Biden was signing something to try to keep us from
having side hustles.
Like, no. I feel like, and it brings into a whole discussion of all the events and things going on in the world right now. Like the media putting a lot of hate out there with racism and all kinds of other things. And I feel like it's a distraction.
Yeah.
I think his name is Tom McDonald, if I'm not mistaken. He said in a rap song, and I absolutely love it, but he said the best way to keep people prisoners is don't let them see the cage.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And it's just, I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on, but I feel like a lot of stuff is distractions to keep us from really seeing the bigger picture of what's actually going on. They're getting, I feel like our government's getting more control over us, especially with our finances. And it's stressful, man. Like we said, earlier, we live in stressful times right now, and it causes some people to focus and some people to fold, so you're having a whole lot of different reactions with people as well too.
I know for me, and we're going to kind of talk about this. I don't want to go too deep into it, because in our next episode, I'm going to kind of cover a little bit more, but it's definitely making us as a society move differently. So like one of the things that are currently happening, people are boycotting these big corporations. Like I know right now there's a McDonald's boycott going on. Planet Fitness,
Bud Light.
Well, but I feel like the Bud Light boycott is kind of simmered down. I don't know if they're still doing that, but at one point they were. And then they were doing a Target boycott and a Kellogg's, the cereal boycott. That one's fresh, because they were like, oh yeah, eat cereal for dinner. And people were like, are you serious? Like, no, we ain't buying from you no more.
Trying to make the new norm. Like, no, stay broke, guys. Keep working and stay broke and eat cereal for dinner. Like, come on.
That wasn't a good look. I think us as a society, though, like even tipping culture, I didn't write that down, but that is a big problem right now too. You have to tip for every little thing. And I come from a serving background, and so I've always been respectful of the fact that if you go to a sit down restaurant, tip, because they make $2.13 an hour. If you did not know, servers only make $2.13 an hour, and they literally live off of the tips that are provided during the service. And don't get me wrong, I've heard both perspectives on tipping at a restaurant, but why am I tipping people who are not even touching anything? Like, why am I at Walmart at a self-checkout and you're asking me, do I want to leave a tip? Who am I leaving a tip to?
Right.
I had to bag and scan my own stuff, first of all. You know, like
Yeah.
it's getting out of hand. And then even like some of the places that I've heard that you're supposed to tip, which I didn't even know that you're supposed to tip these places. So like barbershops, like I learned that you're supposed to tip your barber or any type of service provider. Now, don't get me wrong, if they go above and beyond, I feel that that should be an option. But I didn't know it was a requirement for you, like especially in the wedding industry. Apparently you're supposed to tip the place that you get your wedding dress from. And then you're like, there's this whole system where you're supposed to tip everybody involved on top of paying the service amount.
Right.
Like, put it in the fee.
And again, throughout all this, let me remind you, the pay is not increased.
Yeah, like, dang. So, like, for me, I don't feel bad when I don't tip at certain places because they said that with the Square POS thing, Square started it. It's Square's fault that everywhere is asking for tips, for one, because Square has on their POS where it'll ask you like, hey, do you want a tip? And it has like the percentages. And a lot of people use Square to like run their businesses.
So I'm going to be honest. I do not tip if I'm doing self-serve. If I'm self-serving, but now if I go to a restaurant, I've always tipped. And when I used to go to a barber, I used to always tip as well too.
What? That's crazy.
I did.
So
I really did.
so with the barber situation, because like my kids have had the same barber since they were little, we do tip him. But I did not know that you were supposed to tip your barber. It wasn't until like some years in that we were going to them that I found that out. And then I felt bad because I'm like, dang, I wonder if he feels the type of way because we ain't never tipped him.
Yeah.
And then we started after that. But that was before the C word. Yeah. That was before 2020. Now, after 2020, it seems like the tipping culture has just gotten ridiculous to the point where you're just, it ain't nothing for me to see that, do you want to tip? And I'm like, nope. But back to inflation and shrinkflation. So with the shrinkflation specifically, and this is why I said we as a society are starting to move differently, because how do you raise the price on specific items, whether it's chips, cookies, any type of food product? I'm speaking food products specifically at the grocery store.
I know where you're going with this.
So you've raised the price and we get less of the product.
Right.
How does that work?
Right.
And they try to be slick with it because, like for the cake batter, for example, the cake mix.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. So you give us less cake mix, but you say that we still need the same amount of eggs and the same amount of grease and stuff. But now the product, instead of getting 24 cupcakes, for example, now you're only getting about 16, 17.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And then the quality of the food is different because you are trying to pretend like you didn't change anything. And so we don't know why the cake tastes differently and why we're getting less amounts than we know. Like it's a whole thing, and it's causing you to not want to buy from the corporations at all because you know that they're basically like spitting in your face.
Yeah,
you know,
it's bad. I remember a medium pizza whenever I was growing up was big, and a large pizza was really big. Now a large pizza is the size of a medium pizza.
Yeah,
and it's just like little things like that you start paying attention to. And like you said, you know, you're paying what, $6 for a bag of Doritos, and you got 40% air. No, I quit eating chips because of that.
Chips are like $5 right now for like the family bag, and they used to be like $2. And so you have to pick and choose, or don't even choose at all. Like I ain't finna.
Yeah. The sad thing is, you know, is we live in an economy where if we all were to get together, because you see changes being made when they boycott stuff. Mm-hmm. When these large corporations are getting boycotted and they're losing billions of dollars, then all of a sudden now you could drop it back down to a reasonable
like
price.
Kellogg's.
Or, you know,
everything on sale now.
Things like that. And it sucks, man. I'm going to tell you, what was that movie? Was it Ants? Where they all band together against the grasshoppers or whatever. It's a kid movie.
Bug's Life.
A Bug's Life.
Yeah.
It's a kid's movie, but yet there's a
same,
lot of symbolism to that
Mm-hmm.
if people were to be able to stand together, because even stuff like gouging gas prices is unbelievable.
Yeah, gas price issues have always, I feel, been like an up and down situation, but I think they used to try to, not the gas, talking about the other stuff. I think that they tried to play it with, oh, the companies are struggling, and so we have to increase the prices because,
Right.
like, the cost of food and the cost of goods have increased because of the C word, right? That's what they tried to play it as at the beginning. But then they circle back later on, like, yeah, we're having like record profits, and like this is the most we've made, and that. So like y'all are
Yeah.
making more money. You're actually doing really, really good. So it's not a raise in cost of goods issue.
Right.
It's a you guys are being greedy issue.
Right.
So like you said, if we were to take a stand together, it would change. A
Right.
part of my definition of taking a change is I'm just not buying it no more. Like I'm just like, okay, you want to
Yeah.
charge $5? I'm just not willing to spend that on this.
Right.
We're gonna have to fix something. We're gonna have to pick something else instead of this.
Right. Right.
That's what I'm doing. So I'm gonna shut up now. All right, so let's go to the question of the day. Do you want to read it or you want me to read it?
So the question of the day is, what is something you should feel bad about but don't?
You go first.
So for me, one of the things that I don't feel bad about is if I have to call out of work. Now that I'll be 41 this year, and I remember so many years of feeling bad and feeling like I have to explain myself because I need a day to myself, or I need to put my
Yeah.
family first, or and I'm really wanting to get to a point where I'm not explaining myself. I shouldn't have to explain myself. I'm a grown man, and if I need a day, even if it's a mental day, because you got to keep in mind, guys, that if you're not mentally okay, you got to take a day for yourself. You can't put on the bearing responsibility of I got to keep showing up, and then you have a mental breakdown. And there's a lot of stuff going on right now where people are having mental breakdowns. You
On a
gotta
regular basis.
right.
Yeah.
Life is very hard right now for everybody included. And I feel like there should be some type of grace if you're working for a company or you're working somewhere where if you need a day, you should be able to request a day.
Right.
And, they don't give you a 30-day notice whenever they need you to do extra work or come in a day off or something like that. So I feel like it needs to be respected both ways.
Yeah, I think that there's multiple issues with the fact that we feel that we have to make up something in order to
Yes.
take a day.
Right.
One of the and there's several reasons why I'm against like working for someone, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But in reference to like the calling out thing,
Right.
we are made to feel that we have to lie if we are not physically sick to call out. Even when you're physically sick, there is still something in the back of your mind where you're like, dang, they probably think that I'm lying, even though I really am
Right.
sick. And I don't like the fact that companies try to force you to go to the doctors to get a doctor's note
Which
to
can cost
prove
even
that
more
you're
money.
that you're sick,
Right.
when everything does not everything does not require for you to go to the doctor to get
I
a
agree.
doctor's note.
Right.
Not everyone has the proper insurance to be able to just take off work and then go to the doctor just to get the note. Not for the
Right.
doctor to help solve the problem, but for the doctor to give you a sick note to prove that that's why you're off. Like,
Right.
that's ridiculous.
Which is going to cost you about $1,000 if you're doing an ER. So,
Yeah, like,
and if you don't have actual regular doctor, then you're going to go to the ER, which is going to run you. Yeah, I think
it's crazy.
I think that's crazy. The reason why it's such a sore topic now is because I actually work for a place now that's actually really good about if I need a day and it was the first time I've ever actually felt supported in
like,
my
oh,
life.
snap. Like, they ain't tripping.
Right. In my entire life, it's the first job I ever worked where I
Yeah.
felt supported from the company. And like I said, guys, I'm 40 years old, and that's crazy that I'm just now finding that. And there's a lot of people that don't have that. And
Right.
those are the people I'm speaking to right now whenever I
Mm-hmm.
say that. Like, you shouldn't feel bad about being sick or having to call out. Or I even go as far as to say a mental day. I really believe that.
They do not care about your mental days. And
Right.
sometimes you just don't have the mental capacity to deal with people at work, to
Right.
deal with the job itself. Like, you just, there's so many things that it's just like, y'all, like, we as a society, sometimes we have to just take a day and like it's kind of like an ongoing joke where, and it's funny because Mari ain't never worked a day in his life, but he's the one that's always used to this joke where, let's say we see a car flipped over on TikTok or like just some type of random video where something tragic
Right.
happens. And then he'll make a comment like, "Oh, so you're gonna be 5 minutes late, like to work?" Because that's how they be. Like you could be in a legit car accident or something happen, and they're like, "Oh, so 20 minutes
Right.
late, like you still coming though, right?" And it's like, dang, can I take care of business real quick? You know?
Right.
So it's an ongoing joke. But my answer to that, something that what was the question? Something you should feel bad about, but you don't. Hanging up on bill collectors, y'all. I will first of all, my phone lives on Do Not Disturb now. But before, I kind of sympathized with people who worked at a call center because I worked at a call center before. So I know what it's like to be on the phone with someone and you might not, that they're not interested or whatever, but you got to go through your process because like, micromanaging, they're watching you and stuff. But the outbound calls, I cannot stand for you to hit my phone up trying to promote something or get me interested in something that I did not ask you about. Spectrum, because Spectrum real bad with that. We have Spectrum internet and they will call us like, "Hey, but don't you want cable? Like, what's up? We can get you this for, whatever the price is." And at first I would answer and they try to get you with these local numbers. So you thinking that it's somebody for
local
real.
Numbers,
yeah. You don't even think it's a bill collector at the beginning, but then they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to sell you on this." And you can't be nice and be like, "No, I'm not interested, but thank you." Because they're going to try to push to keep going. And so at this point, I don't even play with them no more. Like click the moment I realize that it's a bill collector or someone trying to sell me something, you gone.
So I'll tell you what I do. First of all, I don't ever answer my phone.
Yeah, me either.
If I don't know
Not
the
now.
number, I never answer my phone.
Yeah.
But what I do is the moment the call says missed call, I Google that number. I do this every single time.
Really? I never
And then
thought
I block
to do
that number. And I've probably got like 150 blocked numbers or something on my phone. I don't care.
He does. Yeah.
I block everybody. Yeah.
I never thought to Google the number.
Yeah, I always go in it because if you hit the little number, you can hit the little information thing. Copy it, paste it into your Google search, and it'll tell you if it's a debt collector or not. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been some times where it may not have information. I still block those too.
Yeah.
Because I'm at a point right now where I know who needs to contact me, and you can email me if you can't get in touch with me. Or you can text me if you can't get in touch with me. So
yeah, I agree. Because at this point, I put up parameters now where I don't really have that issue anymore. Because my phone lives on Do Not Disturb unless it's like my off hours.
Yeah.
And then two, I do not answer a call that I don't have the number saved. If your number is not saved, I'm not picking it up.
You better off texting and saying,
you better text me or leave a voicemail. Yeah.
Or something, yeah.
And I check my voicemail once every 3 months.
And and let me tell you, because you guys probably experience this too, right? So I get a text message every once in a while. It'll say something like, "Hey, it's Amy. I just seeing how you're doing." I don't know no Amy, so block.
Yeah.
Or it'll
like those little spam texts.
Yeah. Or it'll say something like, group chat for USPS. I'm not expecting USPS. Block.
Yeah. They be trying to be slick with
My
it now.
block game is strong, guys.
It is. Yeah, but I don't feel bad about that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
So we're going to move on to the advice. So, Michael, what advice would you give someone who has recently relapsed?
Okay, so for a lot of y'all that don't know, that's new to the channel, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober now for about 4 years. Actually, going about 4.5 years, going on 5 years. And so the advice I would give to anybody that is struggling with addiction, no matter what your addiction is the biggest thing you have to understand whenever you relapse is it's going to happen. It's okay. You got to forgive yourself. You got to forgive yourself and you got to pick yourself up. One of the biggest things that the enemy tries to use, like in our heads and stuff like that, is when you mess up, like, "Oh my God, I messed up so bad, I relapsed." And then you start punishing yourself. Well, one of the things that kept me in addiction for the longest was the fact that I was punishing myself. So I'm here to tell you that it's okay if you mess up. I have fallen whenever I was in my addiction, maybe over 100 times. I have relapsed. I had fallen and I kept getting back up. And eventually one day I got up and I stood up and I was able to stand on 2 feet. You got to forgive yourself. You got to be able to say, okay, I messed up. Okay, now how do I fix that?
Yeah.
And what did I learn from that? Instead of beating yourself up and instead of blaming yourself, because that's only going to keep you in that addiction.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is extremely strong. Another thing too, I feel like is extremely important is the people that are around you. You have to surround yourself with people that can help get you away from it. If you continue to hang around the same people that got you into the mess that you're in anyway, you're going to continue to stay in the mess that you're in. I feel like you have to get a better vibrational type of group of people. And however that looks for you. For me, I wound up moving from one state to another state. And then I got with Shawnda, and I had to remove myself from all people, places, and things. I even changed my phone number and everything as well too. And there's no hate towards anybody. It's just I had to remove myself, forgive them, forgive myself in order to heal. One of the biggest things that kept making me relapse was the fact that I didn't properly heal. And when you haven't properly healed, it's very hard to move on. However, having said that, when you're trying to heal, you've got to be able to do it sober-minded because you can't heal while you're numbing yourself. I thought that by numbing myself that I was healing myself. Well, in all reality, I was taking steps back, and I was never getting out of a hole that I had dug myself into. So when I removed everything and I became distant from everything, I had the opportunity and the proper time to heal. And then this right here had to get right, because if this ain't right and this ain't right, then nothing that you produce or anything around you is going to be right.
That was good. I'm going to come from the advice angle of someone. I'm going to reword the question because, I mean, I don't have experience with relapsing, but I'm going to reword the question in what advice would you give a spouse or someone who has a spouse who has recently relapsed? Because I feel like I could give advice on that angle versus like the actual subject. So, the advice that I would give someone, if you are a spouse to someone who has recently relapsed, like if your spouse has relapsed, the best advice that I ever got when I was in a similar situation, this was a while ago, was be there for them in that moment. But when they sober up, you have to allow them to make their own decision for themselves. Because when I was in the situation, obviously I didn't know what to do. I knew that, Michael had come so far, and I didn't want to see him throw his life away because I know everything that he lost when he, before he met me and like his story. But I knew that I also couldn't necessarily be the person that forced him to stay on his journey if he didn't want to stay there. And so what I did was I waited until he sobered up, and then we had a conversation, and I let him make the decision, because in that situation, he had went to a place where the person enabled him to fall back into his addiction. And I was like, if you want to go back there, I'm not going to stop you. But I feel that this is the safest place for you to stay on your journey. But I have to allow you to make that decision for yourself. So if you have a spouse that has relapsed, obviously it depends on the circumstance. Like if it's a consistent relapse situation, or if it's like a one, like it's been a while and then like they recently relapsed for whatever reason. But allow them to make the decision, but also give them grace as their spouse. Like, don't beat them over the head about the fact that they're relapsing, because they already are going to feel like crap that they've done it, because of a lot of the things that Michael already addressed, like how you feel when you're in that process and knowing, and you almost have to be stronger as the spouse to let them know, like, look, I understand, but I'm here for you, but also be stern enough to let them know that you're not going to enable that behavior. And that, I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying.
So I kind of feel like addiction is the punishment that we give ourselves for what we feel we deserve is the best way for me to describe addiction. I feel like a lot of times we get into the headspace of making mistakes, and the things that have been done to us or things that we've done to other people, that kind of piles up on us. Now, I will say, like she said, being supportive. You know, the person is already punishing themselves.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep beating them up over it. However,
Right.
having said that, I will say this too to anybody that is got a family member, loved one, spouse, whatever. They have to want to change. My sobriety would have never came if I didn't make the conscious decision that I can't keep living like this. I want something different out of life. And struggling to do that. And that's why I said, don't get me wrong, I had fallen so many times, but I still had that want to do something different. And eventually, God's grace got me out of that, and I was able to get put back. And like I said, you know, you'll fall, you know, like it says in the Bible, you fall 7 times and you get up.
Yeah. Keep
You know?
going.
Yeah, you keep going. And that's, I feel like that's the way to successfully come out of that. And like you said, support. Being supportive is extremely important. However, they do have to be held accountable
Yeah,
too.
support, don't enable. Because
Yeah,
there's
don't
a difference.
enable. Don't enable.
I also want to add, before we wrap this up too, from a spouse's perspective, try to figure out what their triggers are.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really, really big, because if you can figure out what their triggers are, you can almost catch them before they fall, right?
Yeah.
So I know, like with Michael specifically, I know that a trigger for him is like extreme stress, because that's what kind of made him, you know, fall into addiction in the first place. Extreme stress. So anytime he's experiencing extreme stress, I'm very, very cautious with our conversations and navigating like how he feels. What is he, you know, kind of entertaining at that moment? And there's even been times where Michael will be vulnerable and be like, look, I really want to do this right now. I'm not going to, but I had that thought today.
Right.
And then we talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like if you can know their triggers and know what, like if something really tragic has recently happened, and you know that normally if something tragic happens, like they tend to kind of go to that, check the pulse. Like check the emotional pulse with them and try to find different ways. Cause if you, like, I don't drink, so I haven't had I don't drink or smoke or anything like that, where I tend to go to certain things to like kind of numb the void or whatever. But I try to allow him to learn new ways to express those feelings that don't include alcohol. And because I have a sober mind, I feel that I'm able to give him more ideas in reference to how to deal with those emotions.
Right. You know, the thing is with anything, any kind of addiction, you know, whether it's smoking cigarettes, whether it's alcohol, drugs, it all becomes habit. And so when you are wanting to get rid of one thing, then you need to introduce, I feel like it's easier if you introduce something else to it, right? Like, and what I mean by that is like working out. Well, if you know that alcohol makes you feel good, then you can replace it with, like, let's say walking, because that releases endorphins in your brain. So it's a little bit different than what you're used to, but it's a better outcome. I feel like painting, drawing, walking, working out, going fishing, traveling, trying new restaurants, just doing something, introducing something new to yourself that you can kind of indulge yourself into. Because for me, I have an addictive personality. It's just who I am. I was a smoker and I was a drinker. So I went from one thing to another. So I had to figure out a more positive route of what I was, you know, wanting to kind of do. And for me, it was like exercising and cooking for my family. Cooking was actually my biggest thing, and I would have never known it. But because I went into it, now I'm like, yeah. So
I love that.
Yeah,
So I hope that helps you guys.
I hope.
Yeah, I hope that helps. I know that like all of our topics was kind of like random, but there's almost a reason for that, because I kind of want it to be where you never know who we're going to give advice to. You never know if we're going to give you advice on something that you're currently dealing with that you would have never known we were going to talk about.
I
agree. I love the randomness of it. But let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you so much for sticking with us to the end. Michael, do you have a word?
Yeah, Pop-Tart. If you made it all the way to the end, put the word...
He always come up with a word. Spare the moment, Pop-Tart. I love it.
Yeah, Pop-Tart.
Yo, put Pop-Tart in the comments if you made it this far in the video, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
All right.
Bye.